Hi, I'm not Patrick Redford. My real name is George Tate. It's who I live as, perform as, and breathe and function as in most of my life. Patrick is simply a creation that I invented, or a pen name or a pseudonym that simply releases magic tricks to the magic community. It's just a marketing thing. I wanted to keep the world separate. But George Tate's who I really am. So I'm speaking to you right now as George Tate. We're here, however, to talk about the bill change. Now, I've put out a number of bill changes over the years and come up with some decent ones. This one I never released as a major release like this, but I have taught it to private students over the years. And recently, the topic has come up again, and folks were asking about this after a clip of mine circulated on the internet, asking where they can learn it. And with their encouragement to put it out as a proper release, here we are. I also have to thank Kyle Purnell immensely for encouraging me to put this out as a proper release, because he came up with something similar where he has a bill signed, and I showed him mine. They're not the same, they're not the exact same handling, but they certainly have things in common with each other. And I shared mine with him. I don't know all the work on his, but he said, hey, mine is very similar to yours, so you should do this as a major release because yours has some really nice touches in it. And I thought, I wasn't going to do that, but after more people came my way and said, hey, where can we learn your bill switch? This is where you can learn the bill switch, apparently. Rather than me doing a bunch of private one-on-one lessons, I decided to just do it this way. So hopefully this is clear, hopefully you have fun, and I hope you get use out of this silly little bill switch. Cheers. You do need to use American money for this. I'm not saying this doesn't work with other denominations of bills, but American money works best, and it's all I have experience with this particular bill. I know for a fact it won't work with Canadian bills just because it's the plastic cash, and you do need to be able to fold it for this change to work. There are plenty of other bill changes out there, including some by me, that work with that kind of cash. But the point is, you need cash that has similar back designs to one another, even though they're different denominations. So cash that's different color doesn't work, although there are exceptions for that, just because our money here in America, or the United States of America, I should say, more specifically, is technically different shades. It is different colors, but this still works because they are so similar. So the ideal thing is to use a 5 and a 20, but it also works with a 5 and a 50 or a 5 and a 100. And for the sake of the explanation, I'm going to use the 5 and the 100 to accomplish this. I'm also apparently going to drop my seat slightly. That was weird. The fold is important. So let me start with the bill that we're going to change into. That's the $100 bill. And I'm going to fold it in half just like you normally would with any other bill change, so that the president is on the inside of the bill. And this is a complete fold. In other words, it's folded exactly in half, president on the inside. We're going to fold it in half again this way, and it's being folded up and away from me, so it is in this position, so you can see both sides. Now there is one more fold that's important, even though you don't even though you don't see the fold during the routine, and that's this fold here. Now this fold is not 100% exactly in half. It's actually stepped ever so slightly. I'm going to bring that in real close so you can see there's a step there, so that when it is folded, I can get my thumb in and unfold it relatively quickly and easily. The more you know. So, let me pick up the 5. This little bundle of joy has the words "in God" on the back of it. Now that's the fault of the United States, being a very confused United States on what they don't believe, but that's just simply for marking purposes. It says "in God" in that little place. And you see a little bit of the building, you see a little bit of the words "the United States" right at the top with the E cut off. That's the position you want to be in. You're going to face the United States, the words "the United States" towards you, with the 100 marker facing away from you. And that's being held behind the bill like this. I usually like to keep it on this side, but if you need to do a transfer move, this classic move of being able to hold it like this and like this to transfer is a nice thing to do. If you want to show both sides of the bill, this is what I do. Is I'm going to roll the bill behind and drag it across. And for a brief moment, it gets clipped between these two fingers. So you'll see as it begins to turn, my hand is blocking it from being seen here, so that it can roll around like this. And you'll notice that this clip, I've clipped the bill temporarily between these two fingers as it continues to roll. And then it releases and comes back. So from the front, it looks like this. From the back, it looks like this. I just want to be sure to keep that bill centralized so that it doesn't accidentally peek over the top or the bottom. Fantastic. Now, I do need to get the bill back to the left side, so I'm going to use that same transfer move to move it from here to here, just before folding it in half and forward, increasing it down. Again, I'm keeping that center. Now this is going to move to the upper right corner as I drag everything up. And notice that the position of this, my ring finger is here on the folded edge, and my first finger is at the top, going along the edge like this. That's going to allow me to get this rested and squared in the right position without it accidentally peeking into view. Now it's okay if it peeks slightly over on this side because my hand is blocking that, but I do want to get it as lined as in one small swoop as quickly as possible. Now I'm going to fold it up and away from me like this, trying to keep everything square. I'm going to hold right there on that center crease. That's going to allow me to dip my thumb into the fold of the $100 bill that's there. Now I'm locking that pressure between these two fingers and the thumb. So I'm holding everything tight. And if I give it a bend, and you'll see, a bend sort of like that, it's going to keep this from folding open. And the reason that's important is you don't want it to be visible on this top edge. So not only am I holding it there, I'm also tilting this hand back towards me slightly, not so far that they're going to see the bill visible here, but it's okay, this is only here for just a brief moment. Now, my right hand is going to fold the 5 closed as the left thumb opens the 100. At full speed, it looks like I'm just flipping the bill around, and my first finger immediately covers that crease in the middle, which is where this bill and this bill kind of meet, because this is now the 5, this is now the 100. Hence the mask title of the effect, because it's like the $100 bill is currently wearing the mask of a 5. Anyway, the more you know. There's a lot of different changes you can do in this position. This one just happens to be my favorite, which is to pinch the top of the bill, roll that back. This comes down, and the middle finger contacts the 5 and drags it into the hand, and it's clipped between the first finger and the middle finger so that it comes into this position. And my first finger covers the 100 for a second, snaps, and now you see it change. Now when this is opened, I open it like this. So the mountain fold is, I'm unfolding it towards me. In other words, I'm not opening it this way because the bill is going to ostensibly be the wrong way around, which is not a big deal because I can continue to open it, but everything's going to be in the wrong orientation. So I open it this way, and what's happening behind the scenes is this. This bill is being pushed back against as everything's twisted, opened, and of course you can do that same display to show both sides of the bill, like so, and you've got your bill change. Now what's nice is you can reverse these actions, because notice that this is in the right orientation. To come back, your thumb is going to dip into the middle of that for a second. You do your transfer move. And notice that it looks like a 5 on this side. I'm sorry, it looks like 100 on this side, and it looks like a 5 on this side, because this is the 5 open. Now, I did mention that there are other changes that you can do here. One, you can simply just wipe your hand over the bill and change it visually. I like to delay it with that other change. And the reason I like the other change is because your brain does the work. your brain is doing mental snapshots here from here to here, and it's delayed. So your brain doesn't quite realize that the change has happened until you bring the attention back and tell the brain to take a second snapshot. And it's almost as if everything is, when the brain catches up, it's almost as if the bill morphs right in front of your eyes. It's hard to capture that on camera, but in real life it's pretty cool. And of course you can do this over and over and over on repeat if you want to. Let me show you another change besides those two that I think is pretty groovy. You can do the wave change, which is one-handed. You wave, and this is just being dragged into the hand as you wave. It's pretty, but there's a few things that make this sing. One, these fingers are going to be closed at the beginning of the wave and at the end of the wave. In other words, you don't want to change your finger position. You don't want to be here or here and then all of a sudden be here, right? That's kind of obvious what's happening. So it's here, you begin the wave, and you stop, and it changes. I don't like that one so much, but it's a pretty change. My two top favorites are the first one that I showed you, and of course this one. This is a really cool one because it looks like you're just showing both sides of the bill, and when it comes full rotation, it does change. And that is very simply, you're taking it here. As it's rotating around, you're just stealing this off. So it's here, rotate. It's like, don't drop it. It's not very convincing when you drop it. It's like this. You rotate it, and it's changed, and it's done. And of course, then you can open up, show the bill, and everything is copacetic. If you want to end sort of clean, with your hands empty, once it's changed to this position, you can fold it inside the bill and show your hands apparently empty and apparently show the bill. Everything looks really clean that way. And this, of course, just tucks back into your wallet. If you're borrowing the bill, you're going to run into a small issue because it really, really helps to pre-fold your whatever bill you're starting with before you go into this. With these, with the folds pre-folded in, it makes this whole business of getting to this point really, really a lot easier, especially for this particular part of the change. But it's not entirely impossible. So let me get a raggedy $5 bill and show you. This has not been pre-folded. It just has the regular fold in the middle, which is going to help. But that's just made by most bill folds or money clips. So I'm going to fold that. And this is not a particularly crisp 5, which is actually going to work to our advantage. It's just going to take me holding this part and keeping that square with the first finger and thumb like I showed you, just to be a little bit more careful. My first finger is going to go in the middle, and I'm folding around the finger that's helping the fold as I crease everything down. And I'm going to put a small crease here first. Notice it's not creased the right way, but it's going to help the paper have that same memory so that when this comes around, it's going to help that change. Now, this is a little bit more sloppy than it would be otherwise, but don't worry about that. If there's some peeking out here, it just looks like this is folded all wonky. But it does still do that change, which is kind of neat. By the way, this is easy to put into, say, a Tenkai palm grip as well, so that you can do your steel will go right into like a Tenkai palm, like you'd palm a playing card, and get into that position. And then of course you can put it into a deeper finger palm. There's just lots of different options that you can do, especially if you're not wanting to change it back again. If you are a thumb tip user, there's a way to do this whole change with the thumb tip still if you really want that cleanliness of showing your hands. Personally, I never do this just because I don't carry around a thumb tip with me most of the time. However, that being said, let's show you the thumb tip handling. So this is how you do this with empty hands and a thumb tip. Now this one is not a matching color to me, just so you can sort of track it. I should have painted a brighter color. I just grabbed one that doesn't match perfectly. The bill is loaded into the thumb tip in this position. I'm not putting another crease in it like you would a traditional excuse me, first day of my new mouth. Traditional bill switch, but it is going in concavely as far as I can go without putting a crease in it like that. And my thumb just goes in on top. So everything is in a position to go. Now, the first fold is done, and this is where the work is happening. And much like a regular traditional bill switch, this is coming out to this position, and this thumb tip is being held in the right hand. Right? So everything is still in the same place that we are doing before, but now I'm having to hide two things rather than just one. So that same hold is happening. Notice how everything still looks exactly the same. I'm just holding a thumb tip as well. And now the change is going to happen here. Everything again is the same. When I open up the bill to bring the bill back into this position, this is when the other bill is going to go inside. So as these come together, I lift, this brings this into this position. I'm going to stuff this in as this is now unfolded. And again, I'm not worrying about that fold. It's just folding as much as it needs to as it goes into the bill. So I can now show the bill and show my hands. But honestly, this doesn't really add much except, peace of mind for possibly angles. So my preference is not to use a thumb tip for most bill changes because of that. But if you're a purist and you really want to be able to show your hands, I suppose a thumb tip works. So to each their own, use it if you like. So we've reached the end, and I want to thank you for picking this up. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your want to learn this silly thing. And again, I hope it serves you well. Till the next time, I'm not Patrick Redford. I'm still George Tate. And for all things George Tate magic, go visit patrickredford.com for the latest and the greatest. Take care and cheers.